Welcome back to Workout Wednesdays. It has been so long and I'm so glad to be able to bring you some yoga today. Today we're going to start with focusing on awakening poses. Awakening poses are meant to move one breath, one movement. So that means as I inhale, I move. As I exhale, I move again. And I'm going to keep repeating that cycle for anywhere from 10 to 20 breaths for each pose that I do. Awakening poses help us wake our body up and greet the day ahead, but they're also very beneficial to use in the middle of the day when we start to feel that afternoon slump in order to energize ourselves and prepare ourselves for the work that we still have ahead. We're going to start only with poses that stay down on the mat today. I won't be doing any standing awakening poses today, but I hope that you find poses that bring life and energy and awaken your own self. So let's get started. Before any yoga practice, it is a good idea to start with the breath. Again, you can click on the link above in order to find the full exercise for how to do the Dirga Pranayama breath. But as we breathe, we want to remember to fill the front side of the body in both the belly and the chest. We want to fill the sides of the body, feeling our rib cage press out as we inhale and fall inward as we exhale. And we also want to practice breathing into our back. It is never more important to breathe into the back than when you're doing positions that are on all fours or straight down onto your stomach. We're going to begin breathing and moving in our very first pose, which is also called supine spinal twists. We're going to position ourselves down on our mat so that our feet are flat onto the mat, our back is flat down onto the mat, and our palms are facing upward. If you prefer, you can bring the arms out to a T position, or as we alternate and look toward our arm, we can bring it up into a diagonal position. Because I'm so close to the wall right here, I'm going to leave my hands at my side. I'm going to begin with my head facing up in a nice deep inhale, filling up the whole front side, lateral sides, and back of my body. Inhaling through the nose. And then I'm going to create that spinal twist. And the word supine just means on our back. So anytime we hear that a pose is a supine position, we're going to start on our back. So we're going to inhale on our back. Exhale, create a spinal twist by gently dropping my knees to one side and allowing my head to turn to the other side. Then, because I'm moving one breath, one movement, I'm going to inhale, slowly pair the movement of the head and the knees back to center, and then as I exhale, I'm going to rotate to the opposite side. Because yoga is an individualized practice, I want you to move as fast or slow as your own breath takes you, inhaling back to the center and exhaling to each side. We feel like we want to get a little bit deeper into the twist here. On an inhale, as we come back to center, we can lift our legs up to a tabletop position, and this time as we exhale, it requires a little bit more core strength and stability, a little bit more work of our abdominal muscles in order to be able to drop the knees to the side on the exhale, and also to pull up on the inhale. Let's go one more exhale to each side. And when we find ourselves nice and balanced in the center, on an inhale, we'll relax before we move to our next pose. Inhale. Go ahead and reach those arms up overhead, reaching the toes away, feeling the length in our body, feeling the spine aligned. Before we move on to our next pose, I want to take a moment to talk to you about benefits and risks of yoga poses. So I have added in this post several links to yogajournal.com, which I think is a very wonderful resource for anybody trying to learn about yoga and for instructors trying to gain deeper insights into the practice and ideas for moving forward with practice and teaching. And in those links, you will find the different poses, their Sanskrit names, as well as therapeutic benefits and risks of doing each pose. I recommend that you read through the links as stated in the information in the post before this video prior to doing any of these poses. Why? Because yoga is also about safety. It's a personal practice, and I can't stress that enough. You want to only move how your body feels comfortable moving. You want to practice ideally with a trained and certified yoga instructor, but if you do choose to practice with just these videos or any other videos that you find on the internet, I really suggest that you make yourself educationally aware of why you may or may not want to do certain poses. So again, the benefits of all of these awakening poses is to awaken each and every part of your body, especially the spine, which needs to move in all different directions each day in order to maintain its fluidity and health. But it's also important to understand your own limitations. We're going to go ahead and move into our second pose today, and our second asana is going to be bridge pose, or Setu Bandhasana. In bridge pose, we see many people do the bridge incorrectly because they are used to using bridge as an exercise in a Pilates, a core, or other strengthening course. When we do bridge as an exercise, the focus is solely on training the glutes and the hamstrings to be stronger. However, when we use bridge pose as an awakening pose in yoga, we are trying to maintain fluidity of the spine and of the hip joint. So we're going to imagine that as we get down in our supine position, we're going to place our palms up, and we're going to imagine that the whole core of my body is attached to the mat, and that the mat, being a sticky mat, has it stuck down. I'm going to position my feet and my knees about hip width apart, and I'm going to tuck the heels in to wherever I feel well supported and comfortable. As I roll through bridge pose, instead of lifting up and down like we do in strength classes, I'm going to keep my knees hip width apart. And again, if you don't know where hip width apart is, find those little bony points on the front of our hips, and we're going to align the heels and the knees with that position. In yoga, I'm going to slowly, as if I'm lifting it off of the mat, peel my spine up one vertebra at a time, tucking the pelvis, and rolling all the way up to my shoulders. So this is a partial inversion pose, and I want to protect the head and the neck here by leaving my shoulders on the mat. I'm going to inhale because I'm opening the front side of my body, and then as I begin to exhale, I'm slowly going to stick myself back down onto the mat, one vertebra at a time, until I come to that neutral spine position again. Notice in neutral spine position, there's a little bit of a gap between your lower back and the mat, so that means I've rolled all the way out through the whole of the pelvis. Inhaling, rolling up, and exhaling, rolling down. Again, we only want to move as fast or as slow as our own breath takes us. And focusing again on the fluidity of the breath, the spine, and the movement, so that as each exhale finishes and as each inhale begins, We keep the movement going, inhaling up and exhaling down. So for 3 more full breath cycles here, inhaling up and exhaling down. 2 more at your own breathing pace, feeling centered, calm and alive. And when we finish that last exhale, let's bring ourselves up to a comfortable seated position. We're going to move through 2 seated awakening poses right now. Seated bent reed and seated spiral, both of which are meant to awaken the spine again as well as the shoulders. So one of the contraindications or reasons that you may or may not want to do these poses is if you have shoulder issues and it's difficult for you to raise the arm up into the air without pain. We're always looking for a pain-free, full flowing range of motion in our joints when we do yoga. We're going to begin with seated bent reed, which is going to work the spine laterally, which means side to side, working on that flexion, and we want to make sure that we don't fall forward, but stay tall as we fold to the side in each pose. We're going to use our opposing arm as a support as we go through this pose. And again, moving one breath to one movement. So inhale, move, exhale, move. So we're going to inhale, bringing both arms up at first, and exhale, coming over to one side, reaching up and long, again, not falling in, but really stretching down the side of the body. And I keep my arm reaching up in order to do that instead of reaching over, because reaching over tends to make me want to rotate forward. So I'm reaching up, and then on my inhale, I'm going to use this hand for support as I roll back up, exhaling to the opposite side. Moving as fast or as slow as my breath takes me. I almost like to high five myself at the top. And I like to look up to my top hand, but depending upon how your own neck feels as you move, you may choose to look down at the bottom arm or keep your head in a neutral position. And additionally, as I move through here, you'll notice that my hips stay on the ground. I'm not lifting up each time I rotate from side to side. So one more to each side, finding ourselves nice and balanced. And when we come to the center, we can bring our hands down into that Anjali Mudra, chest center if we like, feeling nice and awakened here. Our next pose we're going to do is a seated spiral. And both of these seated poses may also be performed in a standing position. We're just not working with standing poses today, so I'll show you those variations on a different day. In standing spiral, we're again going to be twisting our spine. As our spine twists, it naturally wants to compress coming down and across. That's very easily seen when you twist your head. Notice that as you turn, without forcing it, your chin likes to dip down toward the shoulder. So, with that in mind, as we rotate the center of our spine, our shoulder is going to want to dip down toward the hip. We should never try to lengthen during a twist because that will increase the shearing forces on our spine, on our vertebrae, and we can do more damage than good by doing this. So as we move through our spiral, allow your spine to compress as you rotate. When we do the spiral, we inhale, again bringing the arms up, and then as we exhale, we rotate and allow our body to follow through. My arm is going to be placed to the outside of my knee as an anchor. I'm not going to forcibly twist myself any deeper than my spine is willing to go. My other arm is going to fall down behind me, and my head is going to follow the direction that my spine goes. Completing the full exhale, and then as I begin to inhale again, I come back up. Long through the spine here. Exhale, allow the spine to compress and rotate. Moving one breath, one movement, alternating side. And let's go once more in each direction. Inhaling up and exhaling back to center. At any point in time, you should feel comfortable enough to pause the video and continue to practice with a pose that feels wonderful to your body, that feels awakening and energizing to your spirit. Don't feel like just because I've stopped at the end of 6, 7, 8, 10, 12 breaths, that means that your practice should end there also. We recommend that you do awakening poses for as long as your body needs to awaken. I'm going to recommend that you do at least 10 breaths in each pose, so that means 10 breaths to each side. And I'm not going to necessarily present 10 breaths to each side for these poses, but I encourage you to practice for at least that long, giving yourself and your body the benefits that it needs and wants. We're going to move into our last two awakening poses that we'll be doing for today. And they're going to be what are called prone force positions, which means that we are going to be aligning the heels of our hands with our shoulders and our knees with our hips in an all fours position. And again, I'm looking at that hip bone, not just the outside of my hip here. I'm going to relax my feet out behind me. And this is what we call a tabletop or a prone force position. Ideally, my head should be in alignment with my spine here so that my ear, my shoulder, and my hip are making one nice flat line, horizontal line here. Our first pose we're going to do here is actually a pairing of two poses, cow pose and cat pose. And before we begin doing the poses, I want you to take a moment and just shake out those elbows a little bit. Lots of people like to lock their elbows out really firmly when they're in this prone force position, and we want to protect all of our joints by keeping them soft. If your legs are uncomfortable behind you with the toes pointed behind you, feel free to prop up a blanket underneath them. Still trying to work on that ankle flexibility to point the toes out behind, but understanding that everybody's body moves differently. Additionally, if your hands, wrists bother you here, or your shoulders, your elbows, this may not be a pose for you, or we may need to modify, especially for those of us with carpal tunnel syndrome, into a fists position. And finally, if our knees or our hips bother us in this position, we may choose to add an extra blanket or mat underneath in order to adapt this pose for our comfort level. I'll show you in another video a version of this pose seated on the ball and one where we perform cow-cat in a standing position. One thing we want to remember as we go through our cow-cat motion is that our head is part of our spine, so we're not going to throw our head around independently of our spine, and we're also not going to be rocking forward or backward. We're going to try and keep our shoulders and hips in their neutral position. Because it's easier to start most movements on an inhale, when we're ready, we're going to inhale, bringing the tip of our head and the tailbone up into cow pose. And then we're going to reverse that motion at the end of our inhale, curling straight under into cat pose. Moving one breath, one movement. Think about the length of my breath and the length of my spine, keeping the movement fluid and neutral. Continuing to move one breath, one movement at our own breathing pace, thinking about the way the spine presses up and down. Inhaling into cow, spine presses down. Exhaling up into cat, spine pulls up. One more nice deep inhale into cow. And exhale under into cat. Inhaling back into our neutral spine position, and exhale, drop those heels back, reach those arms out nice and long into child's pose. This one's actually called extended child's pose. Just taking a moment to feel that reach and length. When you're ready to join back with us, we're going to come back up to that all fours position. Recentering our body with the heels of the hands underneath the shoulders. Try not to make yourself so short. If you have a long torso, give yourself the length of space you need. If you have a short torso, then shorten it up a little bit. But we don't want our arms out here in front of us, and we don't want them tucked under so that we have no space either. For our last awakening pose today, we're going to work on a pose called spinal balance. This is one that's very commonly used in physical therapy for treating back issues, but again, we would ask you to get clearance from your medical professional prior to doing things that may aggravate your back. Again, you can use the same supports for the ankles, the knees, and the wrists and shoulders if you prefer. This one's also going to work the shoulders and all the muscles down the back side of the body as we move through spinal balance. So in spinal balance, I'm going to return my head to that neutral spine position. I'm going to inhale and I'm going to reach one arm out. And at the same time, I'm going to reach one leg straight out behind me. Now, because my screen is so short here, you cannot see, but my hand is reached out with my thumb facing up, and my leg is reached out with my foot flexed, so the heel is pushing straight out. As you do this on your inhale, it's going to require a lot of balance and core strength. Exhale, setting back down to the same position from which we inhaled. And notice my body shifted a little side to side. On my next inhale, I'll go to the other side, lifting and exhale, lowering at the same time. If this feels a little bit much for our bodies and our balance and our core stability, we're going to go in a 4-part breath. So we're going to inhale and exhale. Inhale and exhale. Inhale, exhale, inhale, and exhale. Let's try it again with both the arm and the leg, or just the arm or just the leg, wherever it is that you feel comfortable. Inhaling out, trying to maintain that nice balance in the center of the body. Exhaling down, inhaling out, and exhaling down. Spinal balance, moving one breath, one movement. Taking our time and trying to focus on setting down where we lift up from each time. Let's go one more for each side. Exhaling down and dropping those hips back into child's pose. This time, widen the knees to the edge of the mat to allow yourself to really drop down. And if you want to, you can bring those arms around to the sides. Taking just one or two more breaths here, thinking about what it is we need to do next in life or our day ahead. When we're ready, bring those hands under the shoulders, slowly press ourselves up to a comfortable seated position. I hope you've enjoyed our practice with awakening poses this morning or whenever during your day that you found us. Let's all take one deep centering breath in and exhale as we bring our hands to chest center. Here we all say namaste, which means the light in me sees, honors, and reflects the light in you. I thank you all for being part of this practice, for contributing your comments and thoughts to the blog, and for following along with me as I continue to maintain my yoga practice as I start on this new adventure. Namaste, and I'll see you next week.